All right, y'all. Back at it again. Another episode 7, right, Cruz?
Seven, man.
Episode
Keep on keeping
7.
on.
Yep. So, we got another great episode ahead of us. We have Marco Lainez here, another guest speaker. Me and Marco go way, way, way back, back in high school. He came in my junior year, his sophomore year, and we grew close ever since. We played together. He was a dominant quarterback, coming out of high school, broke some crazy records, had crazy statistics, as a leader, both on and off the field. So, um, we're glad to have him on and joining us in this conversation, trying to break the stigma around mental health. He's going to share a little bit about his experience. He's now at Elon University. I'll let him give a little intro about himself as well, and we'll get started.
Yeah, I just want to appreciate you guys for taking the time. Yeah, like Tyler said, that was a great introduction. I got blessed in his presence for 2 years, and then I went off to school in the Midwest, and then I played at Iowa for 2 years, and then now I just transferred to Elon.
Awesome. And Marco, talking about your transferring and starting off from getting recruited heavily out of high school, being really dominant, having crazy t statistics and things like that. How was that for you in terms of mentally? How were you feeling coming out of high school, getting recruited by all these schools?
Coming out of high school, I think I think I was a little ignorant to the process because I can speak on both processes for me. Um, you know, coming out of high school, you're an 18-year-old kid and you're getting all this attention from big schools that play and on TV and all that stuff. I would say you don't really take the time to understand, you don't factor in all the decisions. Like for me, one decision that I probably took for granted was proximity to home. I'm a very big family man and I went 16 hours away. So like I was only able to go home the I left. So when we graduated, you were at that graduation. We
Hmm.
graduated June 9th of 2023. I had to report to Iowa June 10th.
Mm.
So we drove that night, and
Right.
that was the last time I was home for the rest of that year. I went home in January for 2 weeks, and then I went back. So as I went through the second process, I thought of all the different variables that, could play into my mental health in that situation because I think being around my family, there's such a big support system for me. My sisters love them to death and my parents too. Like we're just a family that's all together. And I think being closer to them now, a drive away, 8 hours, that's nothing. Or a flight, that's 2.5. That's something I factored into my next decision coming out of Iowa.
Awesome. And we're talking about the college football adjustment, and going from high school and now playing, originally playing at Iowa. What was it like you said, like being away from your family, having to grow up in a way and just kind of, grind? Because I know that Division I football life, not a lot of people really understand that. Not a lot of people understand the sacrifice and understanding how much time goes into it. What would you say is the toughest thing that you had to make an adjustment on in going into playing at Iowa?
I'd say my time management. I In high school, I guess a lot of things are structured, you have your home and all that stuff, so you kind of can separate that stuff. But when you're alone, it's you're responsible for everything that goes on. And you have to know the times you have to be at, you have to know where you got to be, and then you have to be there at the right time. And so I think learning time management, when to get my homework done, when to get my extra work done, when to get my sleep done, because that was a big thing. Because like if you forget to sleep, then everything else just falls down.
Trickles down. Yeah.
So that was probably the biggest off the field adjustment. I think on the field, you walk into a Hun prepared me for this because Hun was I when I was at Hun, everybody was talented. We all like you were talented, Ahmad was talented. Cheech was talented. So I didn't have to necessarily be, you know, the most vocal guy. I just led in my kind of way. And I think the biggest thing I learned at Hun was how to manage those personalities on the offense. Because they had so much, everybody had so much juice and everybody was their own person that I had to be the guy that when we stepped in the huddle, you were like, he knows what he knows what we're doing,
Mhm.
and we can trust him. I think I had to build a foundation of trust, but not a foundation of arrogance. Like you had to look at me and know I I will respect you, but when it's my time to lead, I'm going to lead.
Yeah.
And so getting to a place like Iowa where you're around Cooper DeJean, you're around Jay Higgins, you're around uh I mean just countless guys that play at the next level and are successful at the Big Ten level. I think I didn't take a back seat. I kind of just stayed silent and put my head down and worked and learned
Mhm.
from as many of the older guys as I could, but then tried my best to bring along the guys in my class, if
Right.
if that makes sense. So my leadership role was different.
Mhm.
I really I like what you like talking about leadership. As a quarterback, you're in the huddle, everybody's looking at you, and it's like there's an expectation whether they'll tell you or not. I mean, your receivers, like you said, playing around talent. My high school was kind of the same way. We had a guy go to UCLA, a guy go to San Jose State, all that. So they're, but even still, like when you're in the huddle and they're looking at you, you're still the guy they're looking at, which is crazy because regardless of where you're going to school, like obviously you're a little different. You went to Iowa, I went JUCO, so it's like, I mean, I wasn't this highly touted guy, but when they're in the huddle, they're all looking at you the same way. Like you're the captain of the ship. You get the pen last. Um, can you kind of talk about how that like how that affects you mentally? Because I know for me, it wasn't necessarily like pressure, but it was like I just don't want to let anybody down. Everybody's looking to me to be the guy to kind of make sure we don't hit the iceberg while I'm driving the Titanic, right? So it's
Right.
like everybody's looking at you, but you have these guys. Like I don't know where your guys went, but even at Iowa, like there's dudes, right? That's Big Ten football, and you're like, well, shoot, everybody's looking at me.
Mhm.
I better not hit nothing, right?
Right. I
Uh,
try to
yeah.
I think leader like you said, pressure comes with the position.
Hmm.
You can't not you have to be a leader in some way. Whatever way you define leadership, that's how you do it. And that's has to be your role as a quarterback. I think I think when I got to Iowa, the way I could lead was, being respectful to others off the field, being dependable and always in the facility, like in ways that you wouldn't think until you necessarily saw it, where you're like, oh, you know, he's here after practice and he's doing this, or and I wasn't asking for people to, see me do it. I just wanted, like you said, I just didn't want to let the older guys down if the ship ever turned to me. I wanted them to know that I was going to be there for them, and I was I worked really hard, and if I screwed up, which there were tons of screw ups, because that's just how you develop, but I wanted them to have the confidence to know, okay, he screwed up, but he's going to come back. We know that about him. Um, yeah, so that's kind of how it it grew over time, leadership. I think in at Hun, same thing. Like when I was a sophomore, I was looking at Tyler, I was looking at Ahmad, I was looking at Chiefs. Those guys kind of showed me the reins. And then the next year, my junior year, I was in more of a leadership role, but I wouldn't say I was the leadership of the offense. We had guys on defense that were more vocal than I was. And so I wasn't going to try and fight fire with fire
Hmm.
in that scenario. But my senior year, when those guys left and they were a pretty strong foundation. Um, I had to find a way to uphold that kind of on both sides of the ball, and so that I had my most vocal year was definitely my senior year, the off season of my senior year, because I challenged people in the way that, maybe they didn't want to be challenged, but I pulled people when they didn't want to maybe necessarily be pulled. That was just a standard that was a standard I know I play at. So, you know, I got to bring you guys along too.
Yeah. Before we move on real quick, I'm gonna turn over to Ty in a second. But I really like what you said about kind of understanding that failure is gonna come with it. Like it's all trial and error. Um, I mean, that everybody talks about how the MVP is a quarterback award, but you'll see guys win it with a 68 completion percentage and they threw 12 interceptions on the year. So it's like you're not going to be perfect. And no matter what your position is, obviously at quarterback, it stands out a little more just because the numbers are so raw. Like you're looking at it, you're like, dang, that guy averaged pretty much a pick a game and won the MVP. Like that's crazy. That's crazy to a lot of people. At the same time, if you throw the ball 40 times, bad things are going to happen. And
Right.
so, like, kind of understanding that and being able to roll with those punches and not letting it hold so much weight over your head to where it's rolling into the next drive or the next play and things like that. Um, but yeah, I really appreciate what you said about understanding that there is that trial and error. There's going to be plays that you wish you had back, but that's also just life.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with that. And I think a lot of that ties into your identity,
Mm-hmm.
how you see yourself as an athlete. I know in high school I saw myself as an athlete. Um, I think more going to Iowa and not seeing the success I wanted to see immediately, I had to figure out in what ways I am a person, like who am I?
Mhm.
Like what are my interests? Like I had to figure out my identity off the field, like who am I? And that kind of alleviated some pressure in those mistakes. Because I know for one, when I would identify with my performance, you everything rides on the throw. Where if you don't identify with it, you free yourself up to make a mistake and still bounce back. So I think that's something I think all athletes struggle with, because I mean, I know Tyler can attest to this too, and you too, Cruz. Whenever somebody talks to you, they're like, "Hey, how are you?" And the next question is, "How's football?"
Yeah.
Literally,
Like
like
it's
every
like,
time.
and so whether they don't mean malicious intent or anything, but it just gets reinforced into our heads that okay, when you say hello to me, you're just gonna ask about football,
Right. Like your
you know?
identity is automatically like tied to your sport. Like there's
Hmm.
nothing else. Yeah.
And then that reinforces the belief that like if I'm a bad football player, I'm not a person.
Right.
So I think that's something that all athletes struggle with, and I most definitely struggle with um, in my past, and I've been working better, and it's been allowing me just to play and just have fun with the sport I love.
I love that you bring attention to like your identity because we talked about that in one of our other episodes where it's important to know that you're more than just a football player. There's other things that goes on. Whether you might not realize it at first, like you said, you had to think back, like, yo, like what is there, like what do I actually like to do? And I was talking to Cruz about this the last episode or one of the other episodes where it was like I was filling out something and it was what are your hobbies? And I was like, football. Like that's the first thing I thought of. I'm like, that's not a hobby, but I like how you said it allows you to free yourself up of the pressure, like from making a mistake, because you know that like, okay, just because I have a bad performance, it doesn't mean that like I'm a bad person. It doesn't mean that like everything else goes out the window just because I'm not doing as well as I want to. So having the identity beyond the sport, having other things that you're tied to, and make you a person, make you happy is also essential and it alleviates a lot of the pressure and a lot of like the criticism.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
But going off of that, I kind of just want to ask you if there's a specific time during your Iowa experience where you felt as though the pressure, um, you not succeeding as well as you wanted to, was really getting to you. Like a moment where you felt as though you had like things weren't going well, and you were like, "Wow, like I don't know what to do. Like I don't know if I can handle this. It's too much on my shoulders." So I kind of want you to express and share
Yeah.
experience. Yeah.
I'm sure there were many times where, you know, the realization of the realization of the pressure could hit you. Um, I think just seeing, I think my first year I I was, it was an eye opener. Like I just realized how everything moved and how everybody talked, and you know, there's a lot of pressure in the sport, and so I understood that. I didn't really feel. I mean, I remember one time where when we were at Nebraska, um, it was the last game of this, or yeah, it was the last game of the season. It was right after Thanksgiving, and they had this big nose guard. His name was Nash Hutchmacher. He was like 6'2", 335 pounds. They called him the polar bear. And like
Polar
this
bear?
guy, this guy actually looked like a freaking tank. And um, so Deacon, the quarterback at the time, Nebraska was like 5-6, I think, and they were sold out. The place was sold out, and this
Yeah.
stadium
Pack
the
Stadium.
stadium was so high. It was so cool. Like you would stand on the sideline, you just look straight up and be like, "There's people up there."
Yeah.
So I was standing on the sideline. I was promoted to backup, and halfway through the game, obviously you're nervous at the beginning of the game, even though you're not going to play, and then halfway through the game, you relax. And I'm just like watching, and Nash sacked Deacon, but sacked him to where Deacon fell on his collarbone and just
Mm.
kind of sat there for a second. And like I remember watching Deacon on the ground, and then somebody touched me and said, "Get your helmet." And that was like the first time I felt the severity of the situation that I was walking into. Because I was like, okay, we needed to win that game to go to the Big Ten championship. So as I grabbed my helmet, I didn't. It was like an out of body experience. It was pretty cool. It was a mixture of excitement, fear, adrenaline, all the above, and nothing I felt in high school. So it was just like, obviously he got up after getting tended to by the trainers in the next drive, and he said he was fine. But walking off the field that day, that feeling I had, I was like, okay, if I want to do something like this, I have to get used to that feeling. So I have to figure out, you know, better ways to prepare, better ways to train. So when I get to that situation again, I'm gonna be more prepared. And then it happened a month later when I had the chance versus Tennessee, and I was ready for that.
Watching that game.
Yeah, that was fun.
Awesome. So it was more so of like the moment, like you felt as though you weren't prepared for the moment and you didn't know if you had the right tools. So
Right,
then you were able to attack that then by preparing right, getting your mental right,
right,
preparation, everything was ready for the next time you had the opportunity. So that's
right.
good. So you were able to, you had the experience and you were able to learn from it. That's awesome. I'm
Hmm.
I
glad you.
think real quick before we move on, I think it's important to diagnose how important that fear factor is, and really in all athletes, but especially as a quarterback. Like I think at some positions you can maybe get away with having a little bit of fear. Like you're a little nervous, you're just going to go out there and play with your hair on fire, and as long as you make your mistake full speed, it doesn't really matter, right? You hear a lot of defensive coaches say that, but like as a quarterback, if I'm out there, I take the snap and I'm just running around and I'm trying to make a play. One, I'm going to get hurt. Two, I'm probably going to turn the ball over, and three, coach is gonna rip me while I'm hurt, laying on the ground, talking about like, what are you doing? So, and I know we've touched on it in the past, but there's a higher pressure that comes with it. But like you said, I've said it in the past, we also knew that came with the position when we signed up to play it, right? So it's like now that we're here, we can't complain about it. So I think you being able to recognize that and go and attack that and make sure you're ready, like that shows like how mature you were already, how like 19, 20 years old at that moment, right?
Yeah, it was 20.
So it's like, bro, you're still a kid. Like, I mean, we're still kids right now, but I'm saying
Right,
like you're a puppy compared, like there's dudes out there on the field who are 23, 24, 25 years old.
right.
And so like you're able to diagnose that, and you have you let your pride go out the way, you let your ego go out the way, and you're able to recognize that and attack that. I think that that's super important. Hats off to you that you were able to do that. That's huge as an athlete.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Real quick, it says time left 3:24.
Okay, yeah, so we'll probably have to stop it. And then when it stops, there's gonna be like a pop-up tab that comes up and it'll have to like load all the way. Then it will save to your files, and then you'll
Okay.
have to start up another
Okay.
one. It
All right.
says,
All right.
yeah.
Perfect. All right. Keep going.
Um, so we'll just cut that out after. But
Mhm.
I have another question, more so in terms of the change from going from Iowa to Elon, and it has to do with your mental being and how you had such a big dream to play at a big powerhouse school, Power Five school, play with the big dogs and things like that. How was it when you felt as though that dream that you once had like was slipping out of your hands? How did you respond from that, or how did that affect you mentally?
Um, that's a good question. It was really tough. Um, you just when you visualize yourself being the guy at a big school and all the good stuff that comes with it, and then I ended up, I don't know if you know Cruz, so I was fighting my way to where I was going to be the backup heading into the ninth game of the season, and I broke my hand in practice. And that was it. Like, I had a new coach who didn't recruit me. He had his transfers. So I was fighting. I was fighting a lot just to even scratch opportunities. It was a really tough year. My second year was it was really tough. And I think when uh when I did transfer, I I considered it, that was it. I didn't want to I didn't I didn't know if I could do more, you know. I had been through so much emotional turmoil for the past 2 years because you keep trying to tell yourself that you're good enough, but you don't have any material gratification to prove that. So it's a lot. You're just saying you're good enough to nothing. So I will say it was really tough for me to accept my present reality with what my dreams were. Um, yeah, and I went home and yeah, I was considering just like maybe this isn't for me. You know, maybe I'm not cut out for this. It was a very dark time. Um, because I didn't know what the future held and if I could stay that patient for longer. Um, I think I realized how much my parents cared about me in that time, um, and how much my sisters cared about me in that time because at the end of the day they didn't see a great version of me. Um, they saw a beat up version of me and a version that was just victimizing himself. And it's tough. Like it's tough. It took a while to get back on my feet. And then I talked to people in my life that were very important to me, like my parents, and then obviously Coach Raz. And they just encouraged me, and they told me the story's not over. The story is not over. Depending on like you can get you can get wherever you want, um, from wherever. You hear all those stories about guys from lower levels going big time, making it big time. So I had to double down and choose to believe in myself again, and choose to trust myself, and choose to trust that this path this path is for me, and there's a reason it's happening to me. And when I come out on the other end, I'll be able to tell the story in a way that can inspire another person. Um, do I recommend that you go through that? No. You know, if I could have just experienced all the success immediately, yeah, I would have loved that. Um, but I gotta imagine there's a deeper meaning behind all of it. I don't know where you guys stand up with religion, but I grew close. I would say my faith was tested, and I grew, I would say I questioned my faith because the year my life flipped upside down, which was last year, heading into the preseason, I was like, okay, I want to, you know, get a closer relationship with God, so I'm going to work on it.
Mhm.
And it felt to me, as soon as I had the opportunity, as soon as I could sniff the field, he put his hand in front of me and said, wait, and I'm going to give this opportunity to the guy behind you who doesn't do as much as you do. Well, I would be like, why? I'm right here. Like, I don't
Mhm.
want to learn the lesson. Like, let me just experience it. Like, I'm right here. I can see it,
Mhm.
you know? Um, and I was angry. I was angry at the world. I was angry at the higher power. I was angry at a lot of things. Like I said, my parents, they were just worried about me. No, nobody got to see a really good side of me. Say the only thing that really kind of kept my spirits up was like just being at home with the dogs and just not worrying about football. I didn't watch a lick of the playoffs. I didn't want to watch college football. I didn't want to watch I was I was I was in a dark spot because I didn't know what because I had such big dreams for myself. Um, but when I got to Elon, you know, I met the guys and I met my teammates, and I met they have fire, and my coaches, how much they believed in me, and it it brought the wings back under my sails. I could do this, you know? And so, like I said, I had to make a conscious decision to be like, this is what it is. We can't change it. Let's roll, you know? Like I believe in me, and I'm gonna go do whatever I got to do to make it happen.
I really appreciate you sharing that for sure. You know, I definitely, like you said, it was a tough time for you, very difficult time and piece of adversity for you. But one thing that I do want to circle back to is the questioning piece. You know, when I want to like express that it is really normal and it's very common to question your identity, question who you are as a person, like what you had, like the goals that you had for yourself in times of struggle. You know, that's just like that's a normal thing for people to do. And me and Cruz talked about this the past couple episodes and how important our faith is because our faith is we've been working on our faith for the past couple years now and trying to go stronger with our relationship with God and understanding that he's a pivotal role in our lives and um, he's ultimately in control of whatever goes on in our lives. So I like how you brought that faith piece in too, because we also express that in times of struggle or in our times of, you know, trying to figure out what we're going to do or why we wanted to do something, but we can't. Like we look to God and we turn to him and we understood that he's in control of our life. He's in control and he's the one that's holding you back from certain things that may benefit you later on, but you might not know, you know? So I really appreciate you talking about that. And I want to turn to Cruz on his point of view of faith and expanding on that with his experience as well.
Yeah, and before I kind of talk about my own experience, I think it's important to just talk about how there's nothing, I don't think there's anything wrong with questioning God. Like a lot of people will be like, why are you questioning God? And like even I'm guilty of that where it's like I'll tell people like, oh, I don't question him, like he's got a better plan for you. But at the same time, it's like God would 100% rather you be real because I mean he knows how you feel, so he'd rather you be real in your conversations about it and be like, I mean, there's times where I've sat back too, and I was literally just having this conversation the other day at Bible study where I don't know if you know, JMO knows I have a fairly extensive concussion history over the last couple years, 6 and 4 years, and so, um, but like I've always had this burning passion to play football. There's a video of me and my twin brother when we were kids. We were probably 2.5, 3 years old. Couldn't even spell my name yet, and I'm jumping up and down on the bed talking about we're gonna be football players, like all this, and it's like why would God fill me with this burning desire to be something just to strip it from me while I feel like I'm getting to the place I want to be, right?
Hmm.
And I struggled with that so bad after I had the injury against Howard. And like since then, it's been like, I mean, I know I shouldn't question you, but like, I find myself circling back to it and being like, Lord, like, why would you fill my heart so full with something just to like rip it from me, right?
Yeah, no, I was in the shower in December and like I had been obviously like you're conscious of how you talk to the Lord. And I remember I was in the shower and I started praying and halfway through the prayer I just yelled.
Yeah.
I was just like and then I just got mad. I got mad, I got angry and I was talking to him very badly. I was like, if anyone sees what I put in, it's you. If anyone knows what I do in the dark and how I treat others, it's you. Like why are you doing this?
Hmm.
You know? Like I understand, you know, people say to trust you. I don't trust you right now. It feels like you've turned your back to me, you know? And you've created me to be the person who turns their back on people who turn their back on them. Why do I feel that way against you right now? Like
Mhm.
what are you trying to teach me? Are you trying to teach me? Are you trying to say I'm not good enough for you? You know, because I can double down on that.
Mhm.
You don't have to be good enough for me, you know? So like I had a call it a heart to heart. I don't know. I was just angry.
Yeah.
I was angry.
No.
But it felt good. It felt I know it's weird saying that, but it felt good to get everything just out, you know.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um
It's important to have an authentic relationship with God too. It can't be. I talk about this with my pastor. It's like I can't sit down, and get on my knees, have a formal prayer every however often, and think that's when I'm going to be closest to God. No, it is an intimate, ever growing relationship, and you can talk to him. I mean, talk to him like he's your dad. Like, have those conversations with him. Be honest.
right.
But I don't know how you feel about it, but me and Tyler have talked about it in the past, and it's like even though I hit those bottoms and like I still continue to circle back to God and it's like why would you do that to me? But I've grown closer than I've ever been through those floors as well because it's like you can you literally can see when the leaf turns over and you're like, shoot, like he was literally just tearing me down to build me up. He gives there's I mean the saying he gives us hardest battles to his toughest soldiers. It's personally I think it's kind of corny, but it's like it's also true. Like he'll never put more on your plate than you can handle. And so like if you have a lot on your plate, you're just like, shoot, he thinks I'm big dog. Like I'm David right now. You feel me?
Yeah,
No. But like I think it's it's really important to have that authentic relationship and don't it's not a fake it till you make it thing. It's that's my father, I'm his son. I'm going to it's just like my actual dad. Like if he's doing something I don't like I can have a conversation with him about it. I can be like, Pops, like I felt like I needed this and you weren't, and you didn't provide that or something like that. And so with God, it's not like I'm gonna sit here and praise him like, God, thank you for giving me 6 concussions in 4 years. I'm so grateful that you were able to do that for me.
Yeah.
No,
yeah,
no, I'm
Yeah.
never gonna do that. But
I
like
right.
mean,
I was thinking about this yesterday because my brother JMO just talked to him a couple weeks ago. Shelby, he got hit by a comebacker, knocked him out. He's in the hospital right now.
wow.
We don't really know. I mean, we know what's going on. They think he's going to be all right, but it's like I can pray and be grateful that he put me to be in the situation I was in prior to those injuries happening because that's exactly where I asked to be. Like I
Hmm.
was right where I wanted to be, and there he doesn't make any mistakes. There is a reason it's happening, whether I can see it or not. Um, but also just being true to your faith and don't I would say don't let it falter, not in a sense of questioning him, but in a sense of falling off in your conversations with him. Like don't
Hmm.
stop going to him just because you're upset. But if you are upset with him, make that clear. Have those conversations. Like, God, I don't know why you're doing this to me. Like, do you need more from me? Am I doing something wrong? Like things like that. But it's not like, well, I didn't get like me with like JUCO. I was an All American, and I ended up with like two Division I offers. I was like, bro, there's guys going to Oregon and TCU out of JUCO, and I haven't even got. I'm barely getting like independent uh FCS offers. I'm like, bro, what? Like, what more could I have done?
Right.
Um, and it's like I'm not gonna sit here and thank him that um he's not providing me with exactly what I wanted, but I am gonna thank him for providing me with the opportunities that he has. Because even if, I mean, I didn't pray to get a UCLA offer, a USC offer. I prayed to play Division I football, and he provided me that. And so it's like, who am I to complain about? Like, I'm still way further than I ever thought I could be at one point.
Right.
So I'm grateful for it. But yeah, I would say just being true to your faith, being authentic in it. I think like JMO, you could touch on that too, because I think authenticity and faith is so much more important than having this front of being like, no, me and God are locked in. Like I told him, thank you 17 times yesterday. No, like that's great if you do tell him thank you 17 times a day, but it's also you only get what you put into it, and if it's not authentic, it's not you're not going to get
Right. It's
your
not all
flower. Your
sunshine. It
flowers
can't be
won't
all
smell so
sunshine and
sweet.
rainbows.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Say that one more time. I didn't hear you.
It can't be all sunshine and rainbows. And I think
Yeah.
I fell into that trap before I had that time where I yelled. I was like, I never really expressed anger. I was just like, I thank you for this, I thank you for that. And please watch over these people in my life. And I never tried to make my prayers about me
Yeah.
um, until that one time where I was just I just got fed up and I was just like,
Hmm.
you know, so
No, yeah. I think a lot of people from the outside in faith that don't believe in that, they think religion is all like the flowers just smell so sweet and like it's gonna be perfect. There's nothing perfect about anything except God's divine power, right?
right.
And so I think it's important to understand that those highs and lows, like I mean, you can just look at the last week and Peter denied him 3 times. One of his best homies, Judas, turned on him. Like it's crazy everything that happened, not just in the Bible, but you can relate that to your own life too. So, Tyler, just real quick, kind of touch on that authenticity of religion and how you might have seen growth in that. Because I don't know if you were one of those sunshines. I know I started with a sunshine and rainbow mentality, but talk about like if you started like that and you went an authentic, I guess, stance on it, how
Yeah.
that changed for you.
I definitely think at first, when I first started off, I was definitely like sunshine rainbows, like yo, like praying, asking, like, hey, like, what can you do for me? Just, help me get to where I want to be, help me accomplish my goals. Like, you're doing everything, like, just being like not realistic, and life is not easy, life is not hard. I mean, life is hard. There's nothing given to you. So I think your religion is and your faith is only going to get real if you make it real. Like expressing that things are going well, expressing that you're questioning him, which is common and it's normal and it's okay to question him because things aren't going the way you want it to be. Like that's important and that's essential for your relationship to continue to grow. Because
Yeah.
that's the only way I feel as though you'll benefit from it is if you make it real, is if you show him the struggles, if you show him your true authentic self and continuing on that throughout like whatever you're going through. Um, but yeah. I do have another question, moving on from your faith, but more so into helping out a younger person, helping out anyone else who might be in your shoes or who might not be at your level, or is trying to get to your level, or who might be struggling with the same things. My question for you is, any athlete out there who is going through a tough transition, what's your message to them, and what would you say to them, and maybe give some insight on something that's helped you get through this tough transition.
I would say when you feel like you're in hell, just keep going. Um, I think I think football is a microcosm of life. Um, and something I've worked on is I for 2 years at Iowa, you learn the ups and downs. And the highs are really high in football and the lows are really low in football.
Yeah.
Um, like you have a good day and you feel like you can take on the world and you can no will never be your answer. And then you have a bad day and you feel like not going to class and just staying in bed all day. And I rode that roller coaster. And as I've been growing through this process, I've been understanding the situation today can be completely different a month from now, can be completely different 2 years from now. As long as I'm living, that means there's a chance stuff can get better. Um, and I've kind of taken the leeway and the pride to try and control myself to the point where when I throw an interception or a touchdown, I don't want you to know the difference. You know, like I want you to look at me now as I'm playing and you watch me throw the ball, but you keep your eyes on me and you don't know what happened based on my reaction. And that's a microcosm of how I say to approach life. If you get on the roller coaster and go up and down and up and down, you'll find yourself just not your best self. But if you just stay steady and know that things change. That's just how it is. And if you just keep showing up every day, if you keep attacking the day, if you keep moving forward, like that, it's as simple as possible. Just keep moving forward.
Mhm.
You might have a great day, you might have a bad day. You might have a great day, you might have a bad day. I remember it was my second year at Iowa, and I had a really bad practice, like a really bad practice. Like T, I couldn't hit the side of a barn if I tried. You know, like
It's one of those
it was
days.
just one of those days I was seeing ghosts. I just couldn't get a read. And normally I would walk off that field and think the world was ending. But I remember I called my dad and he asked me how practice was. And I said, Dad, practice was terrible, probably my worst practice of the year. But I just didn't have my stuff today. As soon as I said that, like it felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. Because I knew I was growing in that moment where I was like, eh, tomorrow's a new day,
Mhm.
you know? As long as you're alive and breathing and you keep moving forward, there's a chance that it can get better. Um, I think what you go through is what you go through. Um, and I'm not diminishing that to anybody. And there are people who are struggling with far much more stuff than I've struggled with in my life. For example, you, Tyler, you've
Mhm.
struggled with something that I don't know, like if I would ever come back from that. And being around you, you know, gives me the confidence to know if this man can show up and still smile, still treat people with respect, and still love people, then I can do that too. And it puts stuff in perspective for me, you know? Like what you went through is far exponentially worse than me throwing an interception, you know?
Yeah, I get that. I appreciate that a lot. It means a lot to me, man.
Yeah.
It means a lot for sure. And I think, like you said, putting things in perspective and understanding that your situation could be a lot worse. Like my situation could be a lot worse. I mean, I've had certain things go on, but even my situation can be a lot worse. So, like having that understanding and being optimistic and knowing that there are people who are out there struggling more than you, um, you can still make the choice to get up and continue going, continue grinding, continue attacking the goal. But at the same time, that doesn't mean to ignore whatever you're going through. That doesn't mean that if you are struggling with something, if there is something out there, that doesn't mean that you have to shrivel up into a ball and not express anything. You know, there's many different resources out there. I'm not sure how it is at Iowa, but there is a sports psychologist at Sacred Heart. And I think that's very essential to have that for student athletes, like, because it's not only the athletic piece, it's the social piece, it's the family things, it's everything plays a role and all that has impact. So not ignoring what you're going through and being able to um, seek the help that you need without feeling like people are, looking down on you. So it's
Mhm.
also something I would say.
I just
Yeah.
want to, before we move on real quick, there's a couple things I want to touch on. I think you're 100% right with the perspective thing. Like, obviously, like some people go through things where it's like, dude, I really don't know if I could shake back from that. But I liked what Tyler said about like it's it's important not to try to go struggle for struggle and be like, oh well, I'm not going through that, so that means like I'm not struggling for real, and like
Mhm.
I should just keep working through it. Like that's also not that's not true at all. Like your struggle is just as important as anybody else's, whether you feel it's minute or it's a mountain to you, and it's important to face those things. So I just wanted to touch on that, but also that plateau of life. A lot of people will look at it and be like, "That's kind of a sad way to live. Like you're not really chasing any highs. Like you're always just trying to stay steady." I don't know. I mean, there's some of those lows where it's like, "Oh, I wish I was on that plateau right now. Like I wish I
Yeah.
was level." And there's also those highs where it's like now you're gonna sit there and constantly chase that, so everything else feels like a low. That's not a way to live either. So like having that plateau while being able to acknowledge those highs and lows, I think is super important. So I really like what you guys both said about both of those things. I think that shows a ton of maturity in like your both of your individual processes, and I'm glad we're all kind of on the same page about it. But obviously, as unique individuals, we have unique perspectives about it. But they can all intersect at some point for sure.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
And another question for you, Marco, because it's more so about just your opinion on and or your opinion on resources for student athletes who are struggling with mental struggles or who are trying to seek different areas for help. And I'm not sure exactly because you've played at the highest level in terms of collegiate ball. Um, and I wanted to know how the resources were there and like what you think. Could possibly be something that you think, schools need to implement more on. We need to take more serious, measures on. Because I want to hear like just, there's not a lot of people, not a lot of schools have the resources, not a lot of um, like universities understand how important it is. So I wanted to kind of hear what you have to say about that.
Yeah. So at Iowa, you're mandatory to meet with a sports psychologist.
Okay.
So it's good. It's good. I completely agree with it. I'm completely 100% for it. And if you need some extra professional help, I mean, I strongly suggest that too. Whatever helps you make the better adjustment. I think the thing that's a problem nowadays is like social media.
Right.
Um, the mental health that comes from social media. And you just like the sports psychologists, it's tough. It's tough for them to, you know, talk about that because what Jack Harlow said, don't look your name up, that's how you get hurt. And that's how it is nowadays. Like if you're a big time athlete and you look yourself up nowadays on any social media platform, you're probably going to see something that hurts your feelings. And I think social media has become a very toxic place for athletes. I just think it's a toxic place in general. I'm not just crediting the great stuff about social media, but I think it's a very toxic place in general because a lot of people hide behind their screens and say stuff that you would never say in person to somebody. Um, and I think I think athletes take a lot of it. Celebrities take a lot of it because they're in the limelight. Um, and everybody has the ability to create a burner account so your name's not attached to it, so you can stay anonymous and still say your piece or malicious intent. So I think that's a tough part for athletes that are going through nowadays. For me, how I've handled it, I just cut it out. Like I'm not on Instagram. I'm on Instagram maybe once a month just to see if anybody texted me um that I care about.
Mhm.
And so I can reach out to them, or I can tell them, hey, here's my number. I'm primarily on my phone. Um I've deleted Snapchat, I think, but that's a little more like that's just more or less because you can control that environment. But like Twitter, not on Twitter. I think the last time I tweeted was in like 2021. Um, I just think that area needs to be cleaned up somehow. And especially with the implementation of gambling nowadays, like people be saying some crazy stuff about people just because you were the one who placed that bet.
Mhm.
Like people say stuff, it's disgusting how it dehumanizes people to where they're like, you should you should take your own life. You should do this, do that because you missed a basket.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
You're the immature one for betting on it, and then you're the
Right.
more mature one for taking it out on him.
Right.
I think sports, like I say, football is a microcosm of life, but also any sport is a microcosm of life because you are putting yourself out there in a vulnerable position and you're giving your best and you are going to fail. Like Cruz said, earlier in the podcast or early in the episode, you are going to fail. And I think it's really immature and really um just disgusting when somebody puts themselves out there and it doesn't go well and you jump on top of that.
Right.
You belittle them even more. Like the worst thing that pissed me off was Jesus, this pissed me off so much. Mark Andrews, um, the tight end for the Ravens. He had a terrible game against the Bills in the divisional playoff. He dropped like two balls, and then he dropped a 2-point conversion to tie the game, I think. And
Mhm.
I was rooting for the Bills, but I was watching the story, and then it happened. And um, 2 days later, he issued an apology, like a public apology, and I was angry because we as a society have been like, we're entitled to know that you're sorry. No, like we know he feels bad. Like we don't need to, we're not entitled to know everything about what's going on with it. We know he screwed up. And yeah,
Mhm.
it sucks, but we've developed to where like we're entitled to, like you owe us an apology for dropping a football?
Yeah.
No,
That's
you don't owe us an apology. Like well, at least I understand you were just having an off day, you know? And like the stuff people were saying about him, it was just I just felt so bad for him because you didn't like Mark Andrews is a good tight end in the NFL, probably stays out of the media 99% of the time, but the one time he's in the limelight, we're all calling for his head,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I definitely think there needs to be some type of change in terms of what people can upload and say about certain people who are vulnerable, like you said, like they're on social media, they are face of certain teams, face of the leagues, and if they perform bad or they don't perform well or how other people want it now, they're getting criticized or getting threats, and it's just not safe and not healthy for the sport in general. It makes people not even want to play. It makes people not even want to put their life out there on social media. But um, yeah, that's all I've got for this episode. If there's anything else you guys want to touch up on, let me know. But I really appreciate you, Marco, coming in, sharing your story. Me and Cruz have been trying to continue pushing these episodes out, continue having these great conversations about mental health and understanding that it's okay to have bad days. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to express your emotions and still be loved, still be appreciated, still be looked at as the same and in the same light. So really appreciate you, Marco. I thank you so much, man.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. I appreciate you having me on. It was great to catch up. And it was nice to meet you too, Bruce.
Yeah, Marco. We this was dope for me too. Seeing having another quarterback on, hearing your perspective on it. Obviously you played at a high level, and for you to be able to come on here and get vulnerable, I think it's super important for I mean, younger athletes to watch, and even older people like these fans. I mean, people are crazy, man. Like you said, people are wild. It's the Mark Andrews thing sucks, but
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it, it's like even as college athletes, you're putting as much time into the game as you are. You spend more time in the game than you have with your family, right? And
Mhm.
so I can't imagine what it's like at the next level, but
Right.
I really appreciate your vulnerability. I know it's not easy to come on here like with I mean, I was a complete stranger before this, so I think that's super important, bro. But appreciate having you on for surely.
Of course. I think Tyler's frozen.
Yeah. Um, man, I wanted Tyler to be able. He does a good job of putting a bow on it, but
Um,
let me see if I could get him back on real quick.
yeah, I got you.
Are you guys in workouts right now?
What'd you say?
Are you guys in workouts right now?
Yeah, we had conditioning in the lift earlier today, and then yeah, I mean they've just been kicking our butt. It's just been
Yeah, bro. I'm already knowing.
been running all day. Like my feet are so sore. I've never been so sore from like conditioning before.
Yeah, I feel like it's probably not a bad weather change, huh? From Iowa to
Oh
where
yeah, yeah,
is
yeah.
it north or south?
It's so north. So it's
Okay.
nice. It's nice being here. Because like in Iowa, it's like extremely cold or like
Hmm.
extremely hot. There's no in between.
Yeah.
Here it's you kind of get a little bit more in between. Um,
Yeah.
so I'm definitely fine with that.
Nah, I bet, bro. But like I wish you the best this year. I hope you go out there and do your thing because I mean I know you're ready to just probably prove yourself at this point. It's
Yeah,
like
I just want to show everybody that I belong.
yeah. And
Um,
I mean there's a reason you're there too. Like there's a
right,
reason you were at Iowa, even if it didn't go exactly the way you wanted to. I mean that's huge, bro. And I think it's super important to admit, kind of like letting your ego go out the way. And it's like, I was just playing the Big Ten and now I transferred to Elon, but it's like, bro, it's not as big of a drop off as people think, I bet.
mhm,
Not that I was not great football, but Elon's great football too.
right.
You'll play against guys that play on Sundays. So,
Yeah,
um,
and that's kind of what helped me there is like the people here like they share that competitive desire to play at the
oh,
next
yeah.
level. So I'm like, oh, this is just another school, you know?
Hmm. Well, and I didn't play FBS, but I know most guys in FCS, they're just super hungry. They feel like they were shorted, like they could have been playing at the highest level.
Right.
So
Right.
for them to go out there and have a chance to do it, is super dope. But
T, you got a minute. Wrap a bow on it.
yeah, do you got your little wrap up or what?
I got you right here.
All right,
I'm
bet.
surprised it stayed on. I don't know what just happened. Just cut me off.
Yeah, I think your internet
But
went
no,
out.
yeah,
So.
All right,
I
go
got
ahead.
my wrap up sentence right here. So I said, the story is still being written, but one thing's clear. Through every pivot and pressure, you've shown that resilience isn't just a mindset. It's who you are. You're built to different. You're built to last.
Sure, that's dope.
But that's snap on it, man.
Yeah.
Episode 7 in the building. Drop the mic. Nah,
Marco,
I
I
really
got your number.
appreciate
You
you
got
guys.
mine. If you want to talk, don't be
Yeah, of
afraid to reach
course.
out, bro.
Appreciate it.
But really appreciate having you on for real.